Well, welcome on in everyone to the latest edition of They Are Not From Philly podcast. I'm Adam from Wales, joined by my partner, Justin in Tennessee. And as you can see, I had to get the big guns out for this week. It's Wildcard weekend. He's coming off a big victory last night for his Ohio State Buckeyes. I had to get the lead-off hitter, from WIP Afternoons. You all know him, Corey in Columbus. Corey, Justin, how we doing, boys?
I'm doing good, man. Excited. I'm glad you guys asked me to be on the pod. Like, I listen to you guys, follow you guys. I'm excited to be a guest.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. You're a big friend of the show, and we appreciate everyone that wants to come on the podcast. Me and Justin, like we talk about all the time. This is like for fans. We want as many fans on the one, as possible. So yeah, just how we feeling?
Doing good, boys. Doing good. Woke up this morning to about 6 inches of snow on the ground. Got up, took a nice hot shower and shaved. Got everything slick and all that.
Oh, your hair's looking nice, fella. It's looking good.
Ready to go for the show. Ready to talk some football, and we got somebody that knows a little more college football to go down to College Corner with us today. Who's got some Buckeyes that would look good in midnight green and Kelly green next year, if I don't mind saying.
Oh yeah. So Corey, let's get into it. Big weekend in college football. Two huge semi-final games. They were both, Penn State and Notre Dame. That was really close. The second half was a bit more exciting. And obviously last night, your Buckeyes, they beat Texas. I'm glad they beat Texas because I don't want any Texas team winning anything. So I do like CJ Stroud with the Texans. I like him, but that's about as far as it goes. So how are we feeling, Corey? They've done it. The big game next week against Notre Dame in the final. How are we feeling?
Hey, man, I'm excited. I mean, like, it's been 10 years. I mean, I know Justin's a Tennessee fan, so he probably is like, wow, 10 years. But it's been 10 years since we, won a national championship here at Ohio State. I mean, we always have the talent, and it's like we always seem to come up short. So, I mean, like, we finally are back here. The last time we actually was in the national championship game was the year that we played Alabama, and Devontae Smith went crazy on us in the first half. So, we something good came out of that, I guess, for us because we ended up getting Devontae Smith. But I'm excited about the Buckeyes and what we're doing. I mean, we still got one game yet. I mean, I'm big on, when we get to the playoffs, I don't overlook anybody. So, I mean, Notre Dame's not going to be an easy game. I mean, they got a good defense. Their coach, Marcus Freeman, actually played at Ohio State back in the early 2000s. So, we have that connection. So, I'm excited. Next Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game.
Yeah, it should be a hell of a game. Like Corey said, Notre Dame has an outstanding defense. I mean, they're great. They're a little nicked up on offense, offensive line. Their running back's got a little knee issue. I just think Ohio State's going to have too much offensive firepower for them. I think it'll be kind of like the Penn State game. It might be close first half, but I just think there's just too much offensive firepower, man. Those receivers they got, Jeremiah Smith, that kid's going to be all world. That kid's phenomenal athlete, wide receiver. Then they've got the two-headed monster at running back in Henderson and Judkins. I think Corey's going to be pretty happy after the game next week. I really do.
I hope so. I'll be rooting for you.
Yeah, I mean, we can't root for Notre Dame. I mean, nobody really likes them anyway. I guess,
yeah,
you're a fan. So, I mean, we gotta win this.
Yeah, I said to Justin before, like in the UK, there's the sports channel over here that only like the last 2 years now they've managed to get like TV rights to show college football full time. So I've been able to watch a lot more college football instead of just watching highlights on YouTube. So but I think they must have something in the contract over here because literally every weekend they always showed a Notre Dame game. So I've seen like every Notre Dame game this season, and it's just they've just sort of beat up on teams, and it's just hasn't really been many competitive games they've been in. So it'd be good to see them get a real good challenge for the final with Ohio State. So that's good. That's going to be fun game to watch. I can't wait.
For sure.
Yeah, so let's get into it, boys. It's Wildcard weekend. We got the Green Bay Packers. They, like I've been saying all week, I know they're banged up at the minute. We are banged up as well, but they're in a tougher position than we are, I think, with Watson out and Alexander. So, but they still got tricky defense. Jordan Love, he can spread the ball about. I know they've been a bit up and down towards the end of the season, but, it's the Packers. They're always a tough team. I know we've beaten them a few times over the last couple of seasons, but still, they've always given us a challenge, and it's never been easy. And, so how you both feeling? What's the temperature like?
Go ahead, Corey.
So I feel confident about this game. I mean, the only thing that kind of like I would say that would make me a little bit nervous is if Josh Jacobs comes out and he starts like going crazy on our defense. That may be the only thing. Like their receivers really don't fear me. Like they don't really have I don't fear any of their receivers. Like they really don't have like a Terry McLaurin or like a CeeDee Lamb, somebody that could like take the game over. Especially with Christian Watson being out, like he's like their home run hitter. So, and I think they said that there's a chance that not Josh Dobbs, but Romeo Dobbs, that he might not play as well. So, they're like banged up at the receiver position. I mean, our receivers are banged up too, but I mean, like at least they're playing. Like they're not. I'm not a big Jordan Love guy. I never really have been. I always thought that he had a lot of overhype. I mean, like he throws a pretty ball, but it's like he turns the ball over a lot. Last year he beat the Cowboys, but I mean everyone does that. So
it was nice to beat them twice this season.
Yeah, like everybody beats the Cowboys in the playoffs, so it's not like he really like did anything spectacular or whatever. But I mean he had a chance to beat the 49ers last year in the divisional round, and he's the one that actually blew the game. Like he threw
true.
That's one thing about him, and he'll throw you a couple balls. You just got to catch him.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with Corey. Their receiving course banged up quite a bit, and I've been tough on Darius Slay this year. He is getting a little long in the tooth. He's getting older. I think he's 33, 34 something now. But he has played well since he came back from that injury. And then we got Quintanamo Bay on the other side. That kid has been just above and beyond anything I could have expected with him and Cooper DeJean. I think he's going to be up to the task, especially with their limits at receiver. But yeah, I'm like Corey. I'm worried about them getting the run game going with Jacobs, especially with BG not being there now. BG set the edge a lot for the run, quite a bit for. But I think it's going to be a slow starting game. It's what I said on my call yesterday to the afternoon show. It's going to be a slow start, but I think it's going to liven up a little bit in the second half. But the thing that surprised me was the news about Devontae yesterday. He didn't practice, and it said back. I hadn't heard anything about that, and that's kind of got me concerned. Like with back issues are tricky, man. I mean, it's very unpredictable and stuff like that, and it's going to be super cold. So hopefully he doesn't tighten up too much. Yeah, but I think there's always a nervous energy, especially when it comes playoff time, because it's one and done. It ain't baseball. That's like that. It's win or go home time from here out.
That's where the danger is, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, so with that, I was saying a lot this week on the afternoon show. He wants to just go with what's been winning us this season is the O-line, Saquon. So what do you both sort of think about? What the game plan should be, especially with AJ banged up a little bit with his knee. Obviously, he's managed to play through it, which is a good sign, I think. And like you said, just the cold, how that's going to affect Devontae's back tomorrow, we don't know. So, do you think they should stick with what's worked with Saquon and your line because it's just been absolutely dominant the whole season? And with Jalen back, will there be rust? We don't know. So,
So one thing with me, what I like obviously, I mean, like I said yesterday, we have every single person on our offensive line was either an All-Pro. I think I don't think Becton, but maybe they were either an All-Pro or a Pro Bowler. Like, so you have out of your 4 of your 5 offensive linemen was an All-Pro or a Pro Bowler. You got Saquon Barkley, and it's like you have AJ and Devontae on the outside, but like nobody ever really like mentions him. But like we got Dallas Goedert too. Like we can use like he could be a weapon. Like we saw what he did for us. Like he's pretty much the reason why we won the Saints game. Him and Saquon, and it's like you can use Dallas Goedert in a game like this because I mean you can use like obviously I'm not saying that we should go out and just throw the ball all over the field, but being reckless with it. But when you go back and if you look at what we did week 1, Hurts kind of started kind of like, rusty. He had the 2 turnovers, but like from the second to like midway through the fourth, Hurts was playing super well, and we was taking shots on him, and that was with Alexander. Alexander's out,
Yeah.
and like I said, their 2 receivers are out, so it's going to be hard for them if we come out and Saquon's running the ball and we get up early. It's going to be hard for them to come back, because if we get up early, that's going to take Josh Jacobs out the game, because they're not going to be able to just run the football. They're going to have to throw, and that plays into what we do well, because we don't give up a lot of big plays, and our secondary is like our strength of the team. So I feel like if we come out, get the ball rolling early, get up early on them, I feel like that will play into helping us get the victory.
Another reason why I think a lot of people don't mention Dallas too is because he has been injured so much this year. It's kind of like you forget about him at times. He's missed so many. He came back last week, had a little bit of playing time, I guess, to kind of knock the rust off, to get him acclimated back into the game and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree with Corey 100%. Dallas is a huge weapon when he's on the field, and he blocks so much better than Calcaterra. I know everybody's real high on Grant and everything, and Grant's had a good year when he's filled in. When Jalen's thrown the ball to him, he's caught it. He's made runs after the catch. He's got yards after the catch. But yeah, Dallas is the number 1 tight end for a reason. He can block, he can catch, he can do it all. And I would personally tomorrow, if we're running it well, I would be happy as hell if they go into some 12 personnel, kind of like Doug did in 17 when we were in that Super Bowl run. Because the thing about it is, I've preached it all week to anybody that would listen. When we went to the Super Bowl and won in 17, and when we went in 22, we were top 5 in defense both years. This year we're number 1 in defense, and we were top 3 rushing in those years. And this year we're number 1 rushing. So I mean, run the dang ball. And when Jalen, when it's there, I'd like to see them take. I know they like the deep shots and all that, but if they're playing too high safety, take the stuff underneath. Take some drags and crossers and slants, stuff like that. Move the ball downfield, whatever you got to do to keep the ball moving.
And something too with the run game is like we have Saquon Barkley, but like I mean he got the nickname Playoff Kenny for a reason. Like I mean Kenny Gainwell has always, like, any playoff run we've ever had, he's always stepped up his game.
Yeah.
Like he in 2022, he pretty much took over as the lead back over Miles Sanders.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the Super Bowl and the 49er game. So I mean, you have 2 backs that is capable of getting the ball. I mean, I don't want to see Jalen running a lot. Not just yet. I mean, like I said, if you have to, you have to. I want him to win the football game, but like, I would be cautious with obviously coming back from a concussion. But
yeah,
that concussion had to be worse than what any of us thought. For him to, I mean, people can say, "Oh, they were just holding him out." I call bullshit on that, boys. It had to be much worse than what any of us thought. I don't think you're going to let a guy stay in concussion protocol that long if he's not still affected by it personally. I know you want him to rest. I knew he wasn't going to play last week regardless, because we had nothing to gain or lose other than the health of our team last week. So I mean, yeah, he was never going to play last week. I was kind of in the camp of Hugh Douglas, though. Maybe put him out there for a series if he was, just to kind of get that rust knocked off, because
that's what I said. Like, it might have been a weird situation, but you could have had him back up, Tanner McKee or something, and then just come in, do a couple of series just to knock the rust off. Because like you said, just that concussion was obviously worse than what we all thought, because he said yesterday in his press conference, he was sort of glad that the doctors and stuff sort of like took the lead and made him sort of stay out, and because it was obviously worse than he thought himself.
Let me ask y'all this. I think it was after the Baltimore game. He did the interview on ESPN with Scott Van Pelt after the game.
That was the first Commanders game.
Okay, was that it? When he had the glass on and he kind of looked, his answer was kind of screwy or something. Do you guys think he may have had a slight concussion then? Because he took
because you don't usually see Jalen like with it. He was like cracking jokes and stuff. He was like, "Oh, you're a DMV guy," and all this, and he was like kidding around. You usually don't see a lot of that out of Jalen, so it was a bit strange, because he does take shots. On these cold runs, he takes a lot of hits. When the play breaks down and he goes off running, sometimes he takes some nasty shots, and it's bound to be times where he don't know if he's concussed himself, maybe.
Right. one thing about Jalen, and you guys know, like I'm a huge Jalen supporter. I love Jalen.
Jalen's cousin.
Oh, but
geez, he's dad, and you're the cousin.
Yeah.
But I will say this: like I would probably the last 5 years, if you think about it, in 2021 he was dealing with the ankle injury.
Yeah.
Remember he had and then the Super Bowl year he had the shoulder. Last year he had the finger, and now this year, he's dealing with the finger and the concussion. And he doesn't really miss a lot of games, but I will say, like, our playoff runs the past 4 years, he has been dealing with injuries. So I mean, like, I'm not something to worry about, but it's like, I would like Jalen to eventually get, like, we all want him to be a better passer, obviously. Yeah. We all want him to be, more of like an elite passer. And I think he's really good, but like we always like to see him take the next level. But maybe like those hits that he has been taking, for him to stay healthy more longer in the year, like maybe something that he needs to like work on, or the team needs to work on as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I always think that, I think they'll stick to, what has been working. I think they'll call runs in this game against the Packers. Maybe not, in the first half. I suppose it all depends how the game is going. But Jalen to me is the type of guy where he, no matter what's going on around and the outside, and he wants to stick with what's working. So if call runs is what works, and he's happy to do it, he's going to do it. That's the problem. Maybe sometimes he can be a bit too stubborn in that sense, because like you said, Corey, it'd be nice to see him go a full season, fully healthy, so he can really, reach his true potential with passing and stuff, because his injuries, they always come at the most, inappropriate times. It's always towards the end of the season when we've got a playoff run coming, or we're in the playoff run, and it's just like, I thought this year, I was like, all right, this year now, he's gone, it's getting deep into the season now, he's done well to avoid it, and then all of a sudden, he takes that shot in Washington, and it was like, he's out, and it was like, oh, and not again.
So, real quick, I think earlier this week, Ike and Spike were arguing back and forth, and Spike's argument always well, Jalen always has to be surrounded by all this talent, do what he does and all that. I disagree with him, and I think Ike had the biggest argument that I've heard in Jalen's favor. Adam, how old did you say you were last week when we were talking to Angelo?
33.
33. Corey, how old are you?
32.
Okay, so you guys never really seen Troy Aikman play, right?
No.
Okay. No. So Troy Aikman did not have the strongest arm in the world, none of that. But Troy Aikman had Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Alvin Harper. He was surrounded by playmakers, and he won 3 Super Bowls for the Cowboys. The last 3 he won. Back in 1990, whatever. So if Jalen Hurts can become Troy Aikman for us, I'll be happy puppy with 2 Peters and won't know what to do with one of them, because that means we're winning Super Bowls and winning games. Surround him with talent. I don't get people say he's surrounded.
You've got to have talent. You have to.
You have
my pushback with the playoffs is, and I've said this for years, like even like before I was WIP caller and everything. Like, it's so hard to win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Spike talked about on the show. He's like, is there pressure on Hurts? Like there is Josh Allen and there is Lamar Jackson. And I said no. And the reason why I said no is because, yes, Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's been a 3-time MVP. We know Josh Allen. People got him top 2, top 3. But it's like, if you go through history, right, greatest quarterback, Drew Brees won 1 Super Bowl. He only went to 1 Super Bowl. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers has 1 Super Bowl, and he went to 1 Super Bowl. Peyton Manning went to 4 Super Bowls, but he won 2 of them, and the last one he didn't really do much. So it's like, if you look at Tom Brady, people look at Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and like even Joe Montana, which was before my time. Those guys are like the anomaly. Like that's not normal.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
and it's like you could be playing out of your mind like Josh Allen or like Joe Burrow or whatever, and you still not go and win a Super Bowl. So it's like, I feel like Jalen Hurts in his career, he's been a 3-time Pro Bowler, 2nd team All Pro. He's been to the Super Bowl. Like Spike likes to point out, he's 2-3 in the playoffs. I you know what? Doesn't have a good playoff record. But like 2-3, I mean, making the playoffs every year, I don't think you have something to prove. Like, to me, that's just my opinion. I mean, do we want him to win football games? Of course. Like, we want him to win this. We're fans. We want him to win the Super Bowl. But it's like, what do you want him to prove? Like, so if we go all the way to the Super Bowl and we lose in the Super Bowl, and Jalen only throws for 200 yards, has 2 rushing touchdowns, like he went to the Super Bowl. So like, what does he need to prove? Like, Tom Brady threw for 501 yards versus us and lost.
Yeah.
You know, like what is it like? So if he plays well, but we lose, like I've never been a stats guy. Like stats are nice, but it's like I've always been a win over everything guy. And I feel like in today's society, like it's been like a mindset. And I've always said like this happened when LeBron James came around. It's like people started to value stats over wins. Like, oh well, he's averaging this amount of points, or he's throwing for this amount of yards, but his team lost. Like we all grew up like winning. Like the point was to win the game.
Yes.
It was never oh well, I played well. You know.
Well,
you look
one
at
thing that Ike has said this 100 times. Like his most favorite quarterback he ever watched was Dan Marino. Dan Marino went to one Super Bowl and lost it. And a lot of people, like I said, I'm 47, so I got a few years on y'all. But anybody I've ever heard like talking about just pure passer of the football, who the greatest of all time is, it's either Dan Marino or John Elway. Just anybody that I've grown up with. And I agree. I watched both those guys my whole life growing up. John Elway went to 5 Super Bowls, and he didn't win until his last 2. And he went back to back, and he needed a running game. He needed a supporting cast around him. At the end of his career, he was nothing like he was at the beginning of his career when he lost those 3 Super Bowls and lost them decisively to like the Giants and Redskins, and I forget to the 49ers. Like they got blown out those Super Bowls. And that's my big fault with Spike, because he likes, oh well, Jalen needs all this talent around him. Are you telling me like if Josh Allen could trade places right now with Jalen Hurts, do you think he would not do it? He would. Any quarterback in the league would trade places with Jalen Hurts.
And I don't think that should be a knock on the quarterback
No.
that he for a good organization. Like Peyton Manning played with Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark, Edric James, Marshall Faulk. Like, and don't get me wrong, Peyton Manning was great, but it's like nobody knocks him for playing with that amount of talent. Like every quarterback, if you like, Joe Montana played with Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice, the greatest receiver of all time in people's eyes. Like you need good players to win, and I don't feel like it should be a knock if you play with good players.
If you're
and Jalen Hurts, like AJ Brown. I remember on WIP there was a conversation the day that after we traded for AJ Brown, maybe not the day after, maybe a couple days after. It was like, do we think that AJ Brown is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL? And it was like, is he really a top 10 guy? Like we had this whole conversation, arguing back and forth. Now, I mean, somebody throws him the ball. Like now, I think if you ask anybody in the world, is AJ Brown top 10? They will laugh at you because that's a silly question. Somebody throwing him the ball? Like who? I mean, I don't know. He plays with one quarterback. I mean, he played with one quarterback. We didn't think he was top 10. He played with a different quarterback. He's been a all-pro every single year he's been in Philadelphia. I mean, who throwing him the ball?
Yeah. When you go back to 2020 when Jalen was drafted, and 2021 as well, Jalen didn't have any real talent around him. You know what I mean? 2020, the offensive line was different every single week. It was injury riddled. He came in for those last 4 games. We were still, a lot of guys were out banged up and stuff, and he had no receivers around him. He had Greg Ward, who was serviceable in different little moments, but nothing stand out. Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, he had nothing. And then 2021, we got Devontae Smith in, which you saw that was a bit of an upgrade, but he still didn't have. They were still 9 and 8 in 2021. Just got into the playoffs. So it was. He did, and he showed that he had the skills. Otherwise, everyone wouldn't have been like, yeah, we need Jalen as the starter. Obviously, before 2022, that was a whole thing of, do we bring in Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson? Thank God they never did that. And they put their faith in Jalen, because they obviously did.
And I know this is like a different. Imagine if this team would have traded for Deshaun Watson.
Oh God!
I mean, I live in Ohio, so believe me, I hear the narratives like that. Like Cleveland fans, look at what Baker Mayfield is
Yeah.
That's the guy
Yeah.
they replaced him with. And then look at Deshaun Watson. And it's like if the Eagles, because it could have been the same scenario. If we would have moved on from Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts would have turned into what he is now on a different team, and we would
Oh,
have got Deshaun Watson, we would have been looked at as like what Cleveland's going through right now.
yeah. Like Deshaun Watson, he's ruptured his Achilles again. Now they're saying that he could be gone next year as well. Just like the mess you've got to feel sorry for Cleveland Browns fans because it's just an absolute mess.
He,
And if, like you said, Corey, if that happened to us, we'd have been calling for Howie Roseman to be fired. We would have wanted Jeffrey Lurie to even sell the team. You know what I mean? Because it would have been a complete disaster. It would have. It would have. I'm so grateful that they actually stuck to their guns at that time and they had the faith in Jalen. And, in that, me and Justin talked about it, that draft then when they brought in AJ Brown, I was sitting there watching it like they drafted Jordan Davis and he was like, okay, he's a good pick out of Georgia. And then Detroit took Jameson Williams and it was like, right, surely, you'd seen those clips in the week that Jalen and AJ were like, teasing and they were training together. And it was like, surely Howie's got to do something. And then the ball dropped and he made the trade for AJ. We all heard like Ike's reaction,
Now,
when they dropped. And it was
now,
amazing. I was watching that live before I went to work and I was like, oh, thank you, Howie, for doing this. Like, because if they hadn't, look at the mess we would have been in. Whew.
yeah, it would have been a catastrophe. And I mean, we're so much better off with AJ Brown than we are Jameson Williams because they're just two totally different types of receivers. They are.
Yeah.
Jameson Williams, but AJ's more of
do it all.
he's a physical specimen,
He's a
man.
monster.
He's like a do it all receiver. I mean,
Yeah.
Jameson is more of just like a deep threat.
Yeah.
He put him on end rounds and stuff. But like
AJ go over the
AJ Brown to me, I mean, like he's top three. I mean, my top three is
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and AJ Brown is my top three guys. Like,
yeah, I agree.
I think Devontae is number 4. You know what I mean? Like when Devontae is having his when he's on a streak, Devontae is. I mean, to me, Devontae and AJ are the best, duo in the league. They've got to be top 2
is
at least. Yeah.
I think they're top 2. I think Chase and Higgins are really close, but yeah, I think Devontae and AJ are. It's kind of like a one big receiver duo.
One thing with Higgins though is that he's misses a lot of games. That's why I would give him like if he didn't, I would agree. But like I think with Devontae and AJ, I mean like until this year, they really didn't miss games.
No.
Like this is the only year that they really like kind of like missed a couple games. I don't even think Devontae had missed a game until this year. Like I think he had played every.
Yeah, he hadn't missed a game. He was like on a really good streak, and then obviously the concussion. That Saints game, it was dirty hit after dirty hit. They were just trying to injure our guys, and then they got they managed to get Devontae then, and it was that was a really dirty messy game. So yeah, so let's sort of like have a look around now. It's Wildcard weekend. We've got some big games tonight. It's the Chargers and the Texans. And is it the Steelers and the Ravens tonight as well?
Yep.
So two big games. They talk about Justin Herbert and all the talent. How talented he is, and a lot of people take him over Jalen and stuff. And I guess maybe sort of see why. But to me, it's about, like you said, Corey. It's about winning, and Jalen is more of a winner than Justin Herbert is, in my opinion. So, and Justin Herbert, he got to the playoffs and the Jags knocked him out. So how do you how are you both feeling around the Steelers and the Ravens? That's a division game. That's going to be a tough game. Zay Flowers is out for that game. How do you sort of see these two games going?
You want to go, Justin?
I think, man, the Steelers are falling. They're falling hard. Like it's like Cinderella's carriage has turned back into a pumpkin again or something. They're really good, but like I don't know what's happened to their offense. George Pickens, that guy, they need to put him on a milk carton. Like since he got injured, he's done nothing. Like his game back last week, he was nothing. Like I don't even know if he had more than one catch. I can't remember. I think the Ravens are going to beat them. I don't think it'll even be particularly close. The
Yeah,
Ravens are starting to pick up steam like they usually do this time of year. But I, a lot of folks are saying that Lamar will win MVP again this year. I still think it's Josh Allen for as far as that goes. But I think the Ravens are just going to. I think they're going to curb stomp the Steelers tonight because it's a division rival. Those teams do not like one another, and if Baltimore can boat race them, they're going to boat race them. They
mm.
do not like each other. And as far as Ram or Chargers and I think Chargers will upset the Texans. It may not be like what people would consider an upset, but I think the Chargers. Man, I think they're going to win a couple of games here in the playoffs. I really do. Harbaugh has got. There's just something about him as a coach, man. I've always liked him. I know Corey probably doesn't because of the.
Yeah.
I mean, like I really don't like him, but he's like I'll admit like he's a good coach. I mean, like
Yeah.
everywhere he's went, he's been a winner. So I mean, I mean obviously I'm a Buckeye, so I'm rooting for CJ Stroud to get the W. But I mean I think I would pick the Chargers to win that game too. So this people are probably gonna think I'm crazy. So every single year there's obviously a big upset in the playoffs. Last
Yeah.
year was the Packers. I think the Steelers are going to beat the Ravens.
Really?
Whoa! Wow.
So
Hey,
I
happy. I'm not a Ravens fan at all.
so this is the reason why the Ravens are obviously Zay Flowers isn't playing.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson historically has struggled versus the Pittsburgh defense. I think this year was the first year he's beat. I think he's like 2-8 or 3-8 versus them all time. And I think that Mike Tomlin, I'm not gonna say he's coaching for his job, but I'm gonna say like there's the rumors that possibly Pittsburgh could move on from him if he loses, or they could
I
possibly
seen something about a trade that they can like trade him.
And I think that those are the teams that are most dangerous to play because that's when you got to worry about they could go for a fake punt or going for it on fourth down. Like those when teams have nothing to lose, those are the most dangerous teams because they'll pull out everything to win. I just feel like, I mean, the Justin Fields factor, like you could put him in and he could run around the yard. Like I feel like stuff like that, and without them losing Zay Flowers. Now, if the Ravens win, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think I'm going to pick Pittsburgh to beat the Ravens.
Wow.
Ooh. All right, then let's have a look into obviously start of Sunday's games. We got the Broncos and the Bills, the Rams and the Vikings. That's the the later game that's been moved now to Arizona. And we got the Bucks and the Commanders. They're on after the Eagles and the Packers, I think. So how are we sort of feeling about those games? How do you think they're gonna go?
Go ahead, Corey.
So the team that I fear the most in the playoffs, I've said, is the Bucks. Like Jalen
Jason
Hurts.
Kelsey said that, yeah.
I mean, Jalen Hurts historically has struggled versus them. We all know that. And even the game that we beat them with AJ, he still turned the ball over twice. Like I think, like he threw 2 interceptions. I mean, but we've never, which is so crazy because we've played them like every year the past 4 years, and every
season we playing them too.
Yeah, every single game has been in Tampa. Like we haven't played them in Philly at all. So I mean, I think that could be a factor. They're a hot weather team having to come up here and possibly play in cold weather. But I think Tampa and versus the Commanders is going to be a good game. I like Jaden Daniels. I don't like when people crown quarterbacks too early, kind of like it with CJ Stroud last year. Like I think they should give quarterbacks opportunities to grow. Like Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels. If you looked at all three of them, they've all played well. But like they've had points of the season where they haven't looked as great. So I think the Bucks win that game, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Commanders pull off the upset. But I'm gonna go with the Bucks. And then the Bills game, I love Josh Allen. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it because I obviously love Jalen Hurts more, but I think I'm with Justin. I think Josh Allen is the MVP. I mean, like our old friend Mac Hollins is his best receiver. Like, and we thought Mac Hollins couldn't play, and like he's leading them in receiving yards and touchdowns. So I mean, what he's doing with the talent. I mean, James Cook obviously is a good player, but I mean, like what he's doing to be able to be the 2 seed in the AFC with the talent that's on that roster. I mean, they do have Amari Cooper, but I mean, it's amazing. So I think I don't think it'll be like a blowout because the Broncos have a good defense, but I do think that the Bills get the win.
Bo Nix has been playing well for the Broncos as well. You know what I mean? I know he's a rookie as well, but like you said, you know, it's good to, you know, see these guys, you know, the potential that they've got, you know, going forward. And Bo Nix, he's stepped up in the last half of the season.
Right.
So, but obviously,
it's
the Bills are going to be their biggest challenge, definitely.
I think to piggyback off what Corey said, I think the Broncos are going to give the Bills a tough game, but I think the Bills will pull it out because it's tough for a rookie quarterback, especially going to somewhere like Buffalo and pull off an upset. That would be just an upset of epic proportions, I guess.
Yeah, it would, yeah.
But, I mean, especially with all the pressure that's on the Bills this year. But also on the flip side, usually it's teams like that can pull off an upset. And I was watching the JLC show. I recorded it last night and was watching it this morning. And one of the guests on there, the guest was Joe Buck and his wife, Michelle Buck. And I did not know this, but she used to be a dancer for the Broncos. And she picked the Broncos to upset the Bills this weekend. So I don't think it's going to happen. I do agree with Corey. There's something about that Todd Bowles defense. It scares the bejesus out of me going up against us. Like, it's every quarterback has tonight. You know, Peyton's was Belichick and that defense. You know, and there's just some Todd Bowles.
49ers defense.
Yeah, he knows how to just get Jalen like confused and addled and everything. And I think the Bucs will win, but I think it'll be a really close game. As far as Vikings and Rams, I think the Vikings will win, especially now with the game being moved to Arizona. That's like, let's face it. What kind of a home field advantage do you have in LA when teams can come in there and take over? Like, especially like Eagles, when we went there the last 2 times to play the Rams, they said, like, I've heard people say it was like 40% Eagles fans. How do you let that happen? You know, it's ridiculous. And I think the Vikings are going to bounce back. You know, Darnold had a tough game last week against the Lions, and everybody's like, oh, it's his first big game, and he choked it away. Well, everybody has a hiccup now and then. I think the Vikings will bounce back. I think they'll beat the Rams. Be a good game and all that. But like I said, the Joe Buck's wife, Michelle Buck, she said she'd be surprised if the Broncos pull off the upset of the postseason.
Let me ask you this. Like, obviously, the Chiefs and the Lions, they've got the number 1 seeds. How does, you know, me and you've talked about this just with the Chiefs. You know, they've been so lucky this season to edge out these wins. You know, they haven't collapsed like the Eagles sort of collapsed after the Buffalo game last season. And people were saying, you know, we were lucky for getting these wins, and we were to a certain degree. But the problem is this year, you know, everyone is seeing it all over Twitter, everywhere, you know, that the refs are like on the side of the Chiefs. And I know there's that narrative out there. So like how is, you know, it's more than likely you know, Josh Allen is going to be going up against Patrick Mahomes at some point. So how does anyone sort of overcome the Chiefs and everything that's coming with it? You know, the whole Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift nonsense and the refs and you know, how does anyone get past them?
The thing with the Chiefs, and I've always said, I mean, I don't know about you, Adam, if you're like in the horror films, but I know Justin likes film. Like the Chiefs, that's Jason, that's Michael Myers. Like you gotta kill them. You can't, because if you just knock them down, they gonna keep coming back. And it's like I mean, like we saw what happened in our Super Bowl. We had a 10-point lead, and they walked it. Like, you gotta make sure they're dead. I think that the team that plays them the best obviously would be the Bills. Like everyone always talks about the Ravens. I know they had that week 1 game this year, but I don't like Lamar Jackson I like Lamar Jackson as a player. I think he's great. I think he's exciting. I just don't like him in the playoffs until he proves to me that he can beat them. So I feel like if there was going to be a team that knocked off the Chiefs, it would be Josh Allen and I mean, obviously Joe Burrow not playing, or I would pick them, but Josh Allen, I think that's the best bet, because when I look at the AFC, I mean, the Steelers aren't going to beat the Chiefs. You know, the Broncos, I mean, that's a divisional game. I don't see them doing it, and they're the 7th seed. I don't see if somebody's going to stop the Chiefs from going to the Super Bowl, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Going back to Corey's analogy, great analogy about if you want to beat them, you got to kill them. The scariest when I was a kid, the scariest horror character to me was always Michael Myers, and it was the pure fact of they would shoot him, whatever, he'd be laying, and you would get up and run, and this cat straight up, and he was walking. He's walking. You're running flat out hard as you can, and this cat is walking. And you know what that says to me? That's one confident son bitch. He's going to get you one way or another if he's just walking. So that's what you got to do to Patrick Mahomes. We seen it a couple of years ago on that just crazy comeback against the Bills. What was it? He had 13 seconds, something like that. They got back in the field goal range to tie it, send it to overtime. It's insane.
Even their first Super Bowl, they came back from double digit.
Yeah.
In every single game, like the Houston Texans, the Tennessee Titans, and then versus the 49ers. They came back from double digits in every game.
They were down huge to the Texans that year, weren't they?
21-0.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane at the confidence Patrick Mahomes has. And when you go back to like what we were saying earlier with guys with weapons, what weapons does Mahomes really have now? He doesn't have Tyreek Hill. Xavier Worthy's a rookie. They got DeAndre Hopkins, but he's not what he once was.
Right.
Kelsey's not what he once was. So I mean, it all goes back to Mahomes, man. You've got to kill the snake. You got to cut the head off of it. And that's what the Bills have got to do, man. If they're going to do it, and it could be somebody else. We've seen it, guys. Any given Sunday. But Corey said the Bills are the team with the best chance to do it.
Yeah, I mean they've done it. They beat them this year. I mean that's the Chiefs' only loss is to the Bills. I mean now this time they would have to go to Arrowhead and beat them. I mean, and I mean it's just like me personally. If my dream matchup, my two dream matchups in the Super Bowl, if I had to pick, if the Eagles got there and I got to pick our opponents, I personally would want to play the Ravens because I feel like we would just blow them out. Or I would want the rematch with the Chiefs. Like, I mean, those would be my two matchups that I would. I mean, obviously, people would say the Bills and the Eagles. I personally don't want to see that. I don't.
I don't.
We're going to see it next season. We got to go to Buffalo next season.
Yeah. So I mean, I know we beat Buffalo last year, but I mean, I feel like Josh Allen. Yeah, Justin was there in person.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I had to pick, I would want to see the Ravens or the Chiefs. Those are my two opponents.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind Pittsburgh. I mean, I know it's a long shot that Pittsburgh gets there, but have like an all Pennsylvania Super Bowl. I think that'd be really cool. And I've got a few fans that are Steelers fans, and it would be awesome just to be able to rub it in on them a little bit. Beat them for the Super Bowl, but it would also suck if the worst thing happened and they beat us.
Yeah. But. So do you think there's a way to stop the Lions then? Because obviously I know their defense, as they've got loads of injuries. They've had a couple of guys come back, but they still they didn't look too bad against the Vikings. They made plenty of stops. They rattled Sam Darnold in that game, and the offense is just they just seem unstoppable at the minute. Jared Goff's probably played the best season he ever has. So are there vulnerabilities there, do you think, for the playoffs?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is what we've been saying all season. Vic Fangio and the turnaround of that defense, man. What that like something that none of us could have ever imagined. If you'd have told us, okay, we're the worst defense in the league last year, you get Vic Fangio finally because we danced around Fangio and the scheme that he runs and his guys that studied under him and all that stuff. If you get him, would you take being a top 15 defense? Well, yeah, we'd go from 32 to 15, sure. We didn't go to 15. We're number one. We're the number one.
I know, it's insane.
The daggone league. We have probably one of the best defensive backfields in the league. And, like I said earlier, it sucks with BG being out. But don't be surprised if somebody jumps up and shocks Detroit because of that defense, man. I'm telling you, their defense, it ain't that great right now. They had a good scheme against Minnesota. They put a lot of pressure on Darnold and in his face. But Minnesota got into the red zone within the 5-yard line 3 or 4 times, coming over with 6 points. That ain't often.
I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, they would have to beat the Vikings to get there. But I mean, there's a quarterback that's comfortable with playing in that building. He
Yeah.
played there for 12 years. You
Yeah.
know, and last year they gave him a run in the playoffs. Like, I mean, if Matthew Stafford and the Rams had to go to Detroit with that offense, I
Yeah.
mean, in that run, I could see the Rams. I'm not saying they'll beat them. I'm saying I could see them beating them if they.
Yes,
It
sir.
wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because the Rams have the receivers in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They've got that. What's the running back's name? Kyron Williams.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a good running back. And then the daggone Rams have a pass rush, guys. They got Jared Verse. They got Byron Young. They can get after the daggone quarterback. They got Braden Feist, the other rookie out of Florida State that they drafted. Right. They can get after the daggone quarterback, guys. So like Corey said, if they beat the Vikings, and it would be an upset, right? Because the Vikings are 14-3, and even though the Rams won their division, it's still an upset. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, I agree with
you.
you. Like, if Stafford goes in there, he could put it on.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's all good. Yeah, that's the thing.
Baker went there earlier this year and beat them.
Who? I'm sorry, to cut out on me.
I said Baker Mayfield went there already and beat this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's let's sort of circle around back to our game, with the Packers, and obviously they're a bit riddled with injury. With their two top guys out, and they got to come to Philly. It's going to be cold. Is there going to be a big rust factor with Jalen Hurts, do you think, or do you think he's just going to come back? Because like you said, he was glad to be back with the guys this week, but obviously he's only had maybe like one day with AJ, one day with Devontae. So do you think there's going to be a concern there for rust? I think he'll be okay. I think we might get off to a slow start, but do you think do you think we're going to get off to a slow start like we have for most of the season, or do you think we're going to just like we like everyone's saying, let it rip?
I don't want to see him get off to a slow start. What I don't want to see him do is the first three plays go to guys like Britton Covey, Jahan Dotson, and then run it with Saquon. If you're in the playoffs now, go to AJ, Devontae, Saquon, Dallas. Go with your big guns. If Jahan Dotson's running wide open, yeah, sure, throw it to him. But don't come out like, I forgot what game it was. Our first three plays was a throw out in the flat to Britton Covey, and then a little throw to Jahan Dotson, and then we 3rd and 8 with Saquon, and then we punt. If you're going to get out to a fast start, go to your big guns. If that's what you got to do, and that's what I want to see. Go to AJ, Devontae, Saquon. Dance with the one that brought you, and the one that brought you with 2,005 yards this year. So that's what I say.
I don't think he'll come out with rust. I mean, just because, like, our game plan this year has never really been have Jalen Hurts beat you. I mean, like, our game plan is to get the run game going, do a lot of, RPOs, and then, AJ take a shot if he's one-on-one, Devontae take a shot if he's one-on-one. And I mean, like, if you get Saquon going early, it's good night, Irene. Because, I don't think the Packers will be able to stop that. And then what that do is that brings McKinney and the safeties down, because now they're going to start, all right, we got to stop Saquon, and then you get AJ and Devontae one-on-one. Like I said yesterday, AJ, the knee injury that he's dealing with is the same knee injury that happened in the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah.
The very next week after the Pittsburgh game, they threw him like what? Kenny Pickett only threw to him the entire Commanders game. Like, for the first half, I thought he was the only receiver playing. So I mean, obviously, I know like that's the same. I mean, I don't think it's been another injury. I'm pretty sure that's the same injury that he's dealing with.
Yeah,
like a sprain or something. I haven't heard anything about it other than it's a knee injury. It's just like
that's all they're putting out there, really, isn't it? Do you guys think, obviously, there's been a bit of a talk out there, the last couple of weeks, if the Eagles, go out in the first round, which obviously we don't want happening. Do you think Nick is in trouble of being fired, especially after the collapse last year? But he's done a much better job this year keeping the team together. He's reinstalled that together mentality, and everyone's getting along. There's good vibes everywhere on both sides of the ball, and he sort of embraced his role. As if he is the CEO, head coach or whatever. So do you think he'll get a contract extension no matter what happens, or do you think he could be in trouble?
I think it all depends on how the game goes. Like I don't think Nick Sirianni will get fired at all.
Yeah,
I think it depends on how the game goes, though. I mean, because like if you think about it, all these teams and stuff, they're conducting coaching interviews now. I mean, Bill Belichick already committed to the North Carolina, so it's like,
yeah,
who are you gonna get? And like, I mean, I get it. Playoffs is where you make your money, but it's like Nick Sirianni's won. Like, I mean, he's made the playoffs every year he's been here. He has Super Bowl appearance. Yeah. He has 14 win seasons. Now, I personally don't think they're going to lose on Sunday at all. I think it's like less than 10%. But if they did, I mean, it really depends on how they lose. I mean, if they go out there and Jalen Hurts looks terrible, could it be maybe they brought him back too soon? I can't blame Sirianni for bringing starting quarterback too soon. Like, I mean, like, what is he supposed to do? Now, if the defense is giving up 50 points, I mean, can I put that on? Like, you see, so really all that matters, like, I feel like what the outcome of the game would be.
Yeah,
I agree with Corey. Yeah, he's made the playoffs every year he's been there. I think his overall career record's like 50-14 or 15, something like that.
Yeah.
Belichick. Speaking of Belichick, there's been rumors of teams willing to pay his buyout already at Carolina. Don't know how it is. That would be a horrible look for him personally, if you ask me. But
I agree.
I don't think they would fire him. It would have to just be a whole slew of things going bad. He doesn't control the defense, like Corey said. He can't. If they clear AJ to play, you're not going to trot Tanner McKee out there if your number one guy is cleared to play. It would. I don't know what it would be. It would just be like a meltdown beyond anything we could imagine for him to be fired. Honestly, he would have to climb into the stands and start fighting fans.
He would have to lose, couple times. Or like we would have to lose the game like 7-31.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if something like that happens, I feel like there might be a conversation because it's like, I mean, like that's showing me like that your team wasn't prepared at all.
Yeah.
But like if the Eagles lose 7-31, Nick Sirianni shouldn't be the only person losing his job.
Yeah, that's true. And I also wonder, like we've heard teams reaching out asking for permission to talk to Kellen Moore.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
Does that stuff happen? Like, do those interviews? We know they happen virtually, probably, but did that happen this week, leading up to this game, or how? When does that take place? That's what I've never really understood.
God, I hope not, because I don't want it to be a distraction.
I think if when you're in the wild card round, you can't do the interview until I think their off day, so they wouldn't be allowed to interview him until Monday of next week or Tuesday next week. But I think the coaches that are like in the bye week, like I think like the Lions and the Chiefs, they can do the now. But I think if you're a wild card team, you can't conduct the interview until their off day, and it has to be a virtual interview.
Okay. I just hope that, like, say Kellen Moore does manage to get one of these jobs and whatever. I just I can't see why, like, what sort of job is out there that's more attractive than being with the Eagles. I know he'd have to probably settle for being the offensive coordinator, but I mean, when you got all this talent and weapons around you, why would you want to go to Jacksonville? Why would you want to go to New Orleans? It doesn't make sense. We need to start finding a way to hold on to these coordinators.
Well, I think there's like a less than 5% chance he gets a head coaching job. But I mean, the problem with, I would say, with Jalen is like, and this is the problem when you have a head coach that doesn't call plays, because you lose your play caller. And I've always said this about Hurts. Like, people try to poo-poo it and say it's not that big of a deal. But if you go back to his college days, Hurts has had 9 offensive coordinators in 10 years. The only year that he had back-to-back coordinators was Shane Steichen, and he had an MVP-type season second year. Like, Like that matters. And like people try to just make it as an excuse, but when we opened the season of this year and he said that, I want the camaraderie that they have in the O-line room with the guy like Jeff Stoutland. Like, look at Jeff. Like, look at our offensive linemen. These guys is all pros and Pro Bowlers every single year because they have the same voice, the same message, and the same system that they're in.
Yeah.
We're bringing in busts like Mekhi Becton, where people were throwing him out, and he's coming in and he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. Like, we're bringing in, guys that aren't even drafted. And it's like, that's what I feel like the Eagles need to. If Kellen Moore was saying like, "Oh, I'll leave and go to the Saints or whatever." If I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I'm like, "What is the Saints going to pay you? I'll match that pay."
Yeah. They they got to find a way to keep these guys. Like, I think Vic Fangio is going to stay here. He said he's happy being here, and obviously with Kellen Moore, and you look at the schedule we got next season. I don't know if the two of you have seen some of the things I've been out about our schedule. It's like a first place schedule, and the away games are going to be a lot tougher than the home games we've got. And you need, like you said, Corey, if Jalen can have that consistency, it's going to go a lot smoother, a lot better, I think, than if we've got to bring another fresh offensive coordinator in to build a whole nother game plan, with Jalen and the offense. It's going to be, we don't know where that is going to go. It's gone well this year with Kellen Moore because he's adopted that, the way the Eagles wanted to play by bringing in Saquon and having a run-balanced offense. So, yeah.
Yeah, going back to like what Corey said about being selective where you go, you got to look at the teams that are calling, like you said, Jacksonville. Been a dumpster fire of an organization for the better part of their lifespan. The Saints, the only time they've been good was with Sean Payton. They were never really the model of consistency until Sean Payton got there. So
they don't have a quarterback, and they don't. Their best player is Alvin Kamara, who's 30 years old.
Yeah,
and all their defenders are old, and then they're in terrible cap space.
Cap hell. So I mean, you
and Howie Roseman takes all the players.
Yeah, you got with where you go, because you see yourself as a head coach. If you go to one of these places, you have to be so confident in yourself that like you can get it turned around within 2 years. Like first year, it's going to be a dumpster fire, but if you get a good, if you get a top 3 pick, you get a quarterback like a Jaden Daniels or somebody like that. There's not a quarterback like that in this year's draft, I don't think. I don't believe Cam Ward's like a Jaden Daniels or Shadur Sanders. I've been wrong before. I didn't see Jaden Daniels being the player he is this year, but Jaden Daniels has to do it with consistency, like Corey said. C.J. Stroud was like that year, and he hit a sophomore slump this year. So it's a year-to-year thing, man. And I would love Jalen be able to grow with an offensive coordinator for more than 1 to 2 years. And you can't tell me that it's not an issue, because it has to be, because so much change. And let's say Kellen comes back and they have a really good year next year and he gets job offers. We know the Colts ain't going to be worth a broke dick next year, boys. So Shane's probably going to be looking for a job. So you keep what Kellen had that worked good, and maybe bring Steichen back, and Steichen realizes, hey, I don't be a head coach anymore. I can be an OC. Something like that, because
that's it, yeah, because Steichen, he's starting to struggle out there with the Colts, and I know he hasn't been there long, but I seen a thing the other day. The players went to Anthony Richardson and they said, look, you're not performing to what we need you to, and Shane Steichen could be in trouble next year. So yeah, he could be out there, and if I don't want Kellen Moore to go. I'd like him to have another season with Jalen and really put it together, because they can. So yeah, that we see how everything plays out, but hopefully Kellen is able to stay here, no matter the outcome of the playoffs.
The two biggest things that like the keys to organizations to be successful is you got to have a quarterback and you got to have a good culture. Like those are the two key success. Like, I mean, like if you look at Detroit, they were garbage for years. They had Matthew Stafford, but the culture wasn't good. I mean, look at the Eagles. I mean, Nick, what he's done. I mean, Pittsburgh, they've been a model of consistency for years. I mean, I know they have their hotheads every now and again, but Mike Tomlin has a good culture out there.
Yeah.
be a good culture. Like Harbaugh, that's what he builds is a coach. Like you have to have a culture that people buy into, and then a quarterback that's willing to lead. And those are the teams that's usually successful.
Yep,
Yeah.
agree.
So, boys, it's it's been a fun one, and big weekend ahead of us. Massive game for the Eagles. It's Corey, thanks for coming on with me and Just. We definitely have you on again. Hopefully, this playoff run continues all the way to the Super Bowl, and we'll get you on again. So
Right.
yeah, it's been great. I've had a lot of fun, and so before we go, let's sort of get some predictions. How we both feeling? What do you think the scores are going to be?
All right. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think I said yesterday 31-17 or 31-20. I think that, we come out early. They might get, a couple scores or whatever. It might be close or whatever in the first half, but we pull away with 2K say in the second half like normal, and the Eagles march on to the divisional round.
I agree with Corey. I think it kind of starts out tight in the beginning, but we pull away from it. I think we're going to ride the horse that brought us here. Saquon's going to have well over 100 yards rushing. 2 touchdowns for Saquon, I believe. We're going to say Jake gets off the schneid. Eagles win 33-20, and we get that 33 with Jake kicking a 50-yard field goal, and that gets us 33. So Jake's going to get loosened up a little bit tomorrow. They're going to put their trust in Jake. Eagles 33-20.
All right, I'm going to go with. I'm going to hope that Jordan Love sort of, touch wood, and that Jordan Love sort of struggles to get the ball around tomorrow. So I'm going to say 24-17.
Good deal.
So yeah, boys.
Wins win.
Yeah,
Go
Eagles.
Birds!
Go Birds.
Birds.
Thanks, boys, for coming on. Everyone, check us out. Give us a like, subscribe, watch on YouTube. We can't wait for this weekend. It's a big game. Justin, Corey, thanks again for coming on. Let's go, boys. Go Birds.
Awesome.
Love y'all. I mean it.
Yep. Talk to you later.